Hi, my name is Kaylee Ward, and this is my final project presentation on the reflection of creating my matrix calculator. Over the course of implementing the pseudocode that I made into my final script and creating the final program, there were four main challenges that I faced. The first one was implementing repeating loops for validating different kinds of user input. The second one was allowing users to enter upper or lowercase letters to run switch operations. The third challenge was improper spelling that I had throughout my script that caused hidden errors. And the fourth challenge was incorrect logical operators being used in while loops. So the first main challenge was in the repeating loops that I was implementing. The goal I had for these loops was to create two kinds of repeating loops that would validate different kinds of user information. The first kind of loop was for validating character input when selecting an operation to use a calculator. The second loop was for validating integer input in matrix dimensions in my addition and subtraction case and the multiplication case. In the case for addition and subtraction, both the rows and the columns of the two matrices had to be equal, and for multiplication, the columns in matrix A had to equal the rows in matrix B. Initially, when I was creating this program, I was using if statements to try and verify the user input in each of these loops, but by doing this, if the user was to give an incorrect answer the second time, it would still allow the program to continue and wouldn't loop as it was supposed to. This would cause the program to crash, which is not good. The solution I found was I changed these if statements to while loops, and by doing that, it allowed the program to reprompt the user as many times until the user gave a correct response and the program could continue successfully. The second challenge I faced was in inputting incorrect logical operators into these while loops. The goal was the same as the first challenge in just creating successful loops that would validate the user information for each case that I needed a valid input from the user. The problem that I faced with this challenge was that after I created these while loops, I inserted the conditions for each loop. For the character condition, I had used the or operators. For the integer dimensions, I used the AND operators. This caused both loops to function improperly. During the character validation, it would cause a reprompt even if the correct answer was selected. And then for the dimension validation, specifically in addition and subtraction, it would allow the program to continue even if one dimension was incorrect, even though in this case, both had to be correct for proper calculations. The solution I found was by switching the logical operators that I used in these loops. So I switched to the AND operator for character validation and the OR operator for dimension validation. It allowed for correct reprompting. I initially was going off of just looking at what I needed. So, for example, with the addition and subtraction, since it was that I needed both to be correct, in my head I thought that I should use the AND, but I came to learn that just because something is written a certain way, like in a mathematical operation, it doesn't mean that it's going to necessarily translate correctly into a C program. The third challenge that I faced was in using characters for switch cases. The goal that I had was to create a switch operation that would run each calculation. I had 4 different cases. One was for matrix addition and subtraction. The case B was for matrix multiplication. Case C was matrix transpose. And case D was solving simultaneous equations with 3 unknown variables. And I wanted to be able to allow the cases to run if the user had input either an upper or lowercase letter. So for example, if they wanted to run the addition and subtraction, they could either input a uppercase A or lowercase a. Initially, when I wrote the switch operation, I wrote it with the uppercase variable on top and then the lowercase below, and then going in to add the parameters. For example, I showed here kind of how I had it written. This caused the case to only view the lowercase variable as part of the switch and not the uppercase. So if they were to input the uppercase A, it would not run, and it would either return a invalid error code or it would just completely mess up the program. The solution I found was to add brackets after the lowercase operation in each case, and I was able to successfully run each case with both the upper and lowercase input. This actually took a while to figure out. I was kind of messing around and trying to put brackets in different locations between the upper and lowercase case to figure it out, and this was the end result that made it function the smoothest. The final challenge that I faced throughout the program creation was misspellings in my script. The goal for this was to have a fully operational and properly debugged script with no errors, no improper return values, and no invalid calculations. So I wanted to make sure that no matter what numbers and dimensions the user input, that each operation would run correctly without crashing and would give the proper results. When I was initially creating this script, I was going through it a little too fast, and in doing so, I wasn't taking the time that I should have to check every section before I would continue. And after I finished writing the script and I took care of the major errors that my report log would show me, the program would still inevitably crash. It would return error codes that weren't necessarily listed in the report log, or it would just give completely incorrect calculations. For example, when I was doing the matrix transpose, I was running into an issue where instead of transposing it properly and just switching the rows for the columns and vice versa, it would just spit out random numbers and try to multiply things, and was just not running correctly whatsoever. And so I ended up going through and manually debugging my code line by line, making sure that everything was spelled correctly, making sure that I was using the correct format specifiers, because I had a couple instances where I was accidentally using the %D format specifier for floats, or I had %C when it was supposed to be printing a string, things like that. And also I had a couple of instances where I had accidentally written a 1 instead of an I in my for loops, which would obviously cause the for loops to not count correctly. And by correcting these small misspellings and mistakes in my code, the program was able to run successfully, and I was able to get all of the calculations to function properly. Right, and that is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for watching. I had a great time in creating this program, and I hope that you have a great winter break. Thank you.